Welcome to the ChicoBag podcast, where we explore how to leave everything better than we found it, whether it's products we use, the systems we build, or the land we walk on. I'm your host, Andy Keller, and today we're joined by Stephan Classen, Assistant Director of Sustainable Practices at Cascadia College in Washington. Cascadia's campus has earned national recognition as the #1 sustainable college grounds in the country every year since 2018. It's home to a 58-acre restored wetland, and it's 100% pesticide-free and serves as a living example of what's possible when sustainability is built into a campus from the ground up. In this episode, we'll explore how educational institutions can lead the way in sustainability, and how restored natural landscapes can double as classrooms, and what lessons any organization or individual can take from Cascadia's model, no matter where you are. Let's dive in. Welcome,
Great,
Stephan.
thank you. Happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit about the campus. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, so we're a new community college, and the true point is that we're also tied to University of Washington Bothell. We're a joint campus with the two schools, and it was a push back in the late 90s to build this school from the ground up. And the state really wanted to do a land restoration project too. So adding this, we mentioned the 58-acre restored wetland. So that was a kind of main driving initiative force to kind of get the sustainability and land conservation and restoration on the idea. And then things started really growing from there. So now, since 2006, we went pesticide-free. And that takes a whole different management strategy. We'll cover that, and I'm sure quite a bit. And then from there, we realized that, once you're pesticide free, there's so much more you can do, right? You can bring the bees back and support pollinators. You can do food access areas for people and offer things that people can forage and kind of pick on their own. We've done lots more like natural restorations and wildlife habitat spaces. We've done a few spaces that kind of made people shake their heads and wonder about things sometimes here and there too. So it's been interesting, the pathway as we grow, but that pesticide free was the first real start. And from there, we've been able to showcase what can be done, how it can work with nature around buildings, and use it as a classroom itself. And this is, things people can do at home too, which is exciting.
I mean, I got to ask, 100% pesticide free. It's impressive. So what are the alternative practices that you're using there, and how can we use that at home or, at our own organization?
The first one really is just realizing that when we say pesticide free, we really mean like synthetic pesticides or, chemical insecticides and things, right? So stuff that's made by chemical companies to physically kill things, right? A lot of weeds, if you have problems with weeds, can be dealt with much more natural things like vinegar treatments or even just hand pulling and things. And so we have a full-time groundskeeping team that actually does manage differently, right? They do a lot more mowing and weeding. If something invasive comes in, there's specific spot treatment where they actually care and make sure they pull it and target that aggressively, then overplant. The idea is that the whole strategy of how you actually manage your landscape is really different, where it's not only just handle a spot. It's supposed to be beautiful and spray things that you don't like and just grow exactly the things you want. I mean, things are a little bit more wild on our campus. We definitely have to grow specific native plants or other things that are adapted to the region to shade out things that would be weeds, right? We're in the Pacific Northwest. So we have a ton of blackberry that comes in quickly and other things like knotweed that we've had to deal with here and there. And admittedly, right, there's been a few times emergency, like a large invasive comes in, they've had to do a quick spot treatment, wipe out the thing, then ground cover the whole area. Right, keep it covered in like a plastic sheet for 6 months to a year, and then make sure they pull any of the stragglers that come out. But then the management is, we have our grounds team always out there, watching the land, knowing what to grow, allowing different things to kind of sprout naturally, and not, just pulling anything you don't recognize kind of idea.
So, I mean, what can everyday people who are listening to this podcast do to adopt a more natural gardening habit like you guys have there? Like what are some of the lessons that you've learned?
100% pesticide free is hard, and we get that, right? Especially if you're like managing a larger landscape and things, but less pesticides is the first step, right? You really don't need as much as people are probably spraying out in the world, because it doesn't just kill weeds. It kills insects, it kills birds, it kills some of the plants you do want. And so that's actually the biggest thing. You can just take the step to stop using a lot of these chemicals. Roundup that you find in everyday grocery stores and those type of chemicals are usually the first ones that probably need to go. I mean, people don't know, but those are the chemicals used in multiple wars to actually kill people like 50 to 100 years ago. So that's not things we really want our kids playing on in lawns and things. Number two is lawns, right? If you have a lawn that you want to use for like kids playing or dogs running or something, sure, keep the space, but you don't need to keep the lawn if you're not using it really, or you can let it go a bit more wild, right? Plant some native plants, plant some berry bushes, plant things that, are more functionally useful. A lawn was something that 17th century aristocrats wanted to show that they didn't need to grow food or something. It's like, we don't really need that anymore.
That's interesting. The aristocrat, I never really thought about, our landscape as,
Yeah, you imagine the giant palaces of like the French, right, and having hundreds of acres of lawn just because of that. But I mean, even in the 17th century, right, people would be growing food if they had the space. They'd be growing, orchards or berry areas or mixed food forest type things, or even like grapes for wine, right? They wouldn't be having just lawn unless they really didn't need the space.
I love the idea of going through the campus and finding food. In my own yard, I have fruit trees, and just the other day, I'm like, there's still oranges on my fruit tree, and it's right. Been there all year long. And anytime I want an orange, I go pick one.
That's the best, yeah.
And it's nothing like having fruit right off the tree. So, is anyone on campus just able to pick whatever they want?
Pretty much. I mean, within reasonable limits, we ask. We have a food forest on campus that won an award back in 21, being like one of the first college campuses to have this. And the idea was, because, again, we're pesticide-free, that anything's more or less safe to pick within reasons and limits and, allergies and such, of course. But we grow everything from an apple orchard. We have this food forest that's mixed fruit and nuts to grow and berries, and it's open foraging. So if people need a snack between classes, right, because we're students and things, they can go and pick berries or fruit when the season comes in. If the community members will walk their dogs across campus in the summer, and then they'll pick a couple mulberries or something. And the really fun part about it, especially we're lucky we're in the Pacific Northwest again, that we have this climate that allows for a huge variety of things to grow. So we have weird fruit people have never heard of, things like medlars, goji berries, persimmons, Chinese hawthorn, cornelian cherries. I mean, stuff you will never find in a grocery store. But people love to experiment and try new things that way. I mean, I tried quince for the first time this year.
So what is Chinese hawthorn? What's that taste like?
It's a sour, kind of red, kind of grape-sized fruit. It has seeds inside. You have to actually like crack it open and scrape the seeds out. And it's kind of like a chewy, kind of like a dry pear texture, but then like much more sour, like a cherry.
Wow.
Yeah, weird. Apparently Chinese people make it into like a candy, and or they'll like honey, cover it in honey and like candy it on sticks too, which is really more popular.
That's neat. So, I mean, it sounds like, a great place to go to school. So, how does higher education, in this kind of, you almost have like your own universe that you're able to operate in. How can, we learn from what you're doing, and what does this mean for like the larger sustainability movement across the world?
That's not easy to answer, actually. I mean, the hardest part is that we are kind of we're a very small school, but we're a small universe too in higher education, trying to help people learn. And because we're also a college, we're trying to help people learn accessibly. So education that's affordable for people, that has more open access, that doesn't have like harsh stricture requirements to get in. That's really one of our main missions to start. But then two, being able to use the campus itself as a learning space, as a living laboratory that people can come to and learn. Just being on the campus makes a huge difference. Sustainability is a kind of a goal to make the world better. People keep seeing all the problems in the world. The news is scary. We want to find ways to help people just think that there's hope in the world and society can be better. We can do better than what we're currently doing, and these are different pathways. I mean, grounds is where we shine, but we have buildings and practices. We have a sustainability bachelor's program that several of my students still work their way through college and can pay for it somehow. Like we're there to kind of create opportunities and make a difference for me, or at least train people to make a difference.
Yeah, I'm curious, besides the grounds and your sustainability programs, like what other things are you doing on campus that
Um,
that you're
Well, we
proud
have,
of?
I said buildings, right? So we have multiple LEED certified buildings. That's the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So several buildings that way. So one building that captures rainwater to flush toilets. All of them have south-facing windows to capture more light, so we reduce our power usage. A big one for like architects up here that are doing is external stairwells, where the stairwell is just externalized from the HVAC system, so it's never heated or cooled in the summer and winter. So they're freezing, admittedly, in the winter, but the building energy goes down because you don't have to actually keep that place warm. That people use for 30 seconds to 2 minutes just going in the stairwell. For practices, we're big on zero waste as wherever we can, right? We have full composting across our whole campus, so we really push people to compost more. Even recycling is hard for people. I make mistakes recycling all the time myself. It's the best way to recycle or not, produce waste is not to make it in the first place.
Yes.
So we train people on that, everything from orientation to students on different ways to sort waste. Common because we're in higher education, right? Whiteboards are everywhere. Faculty are offered at times. We haven't done it in a little bit, so we have to redo this soon. But faculty are offered refillable whiteboard markers, so that different practices again, right? Choosing different pathways that doesn't create waste is kind of part of our culture that way.
I'm hearing a theme. As far as orienting the buildings, having windows in the right location, having the pollinators on campus, it seems like everything is the idea of working with nature instead of working against nature. And it seems like a lot of humanity is just fighting nature instead of, working with nature. So what kind of surprises have you learned, through the process of working with nature? What's happened that has surprised you?
First and foremost, how much nature wants to actually come back and kind of just produce. Right, our wetland of being 58 acres was, it was a cattle ranch. Let's be honest. It was a full-on cattle ranch. I mean, they had rodeos here before the early 2000s, and it got restructured and redesigned to be a wetland. And nature has come back. We have crows, we have beavers. Our animals came back to the site and use it, even though we're surrounded by the two different highways. There's interstates that surround our campus on two sides. The other part too with, the pesticide-free is that, how much you can actually grow in different spaces, even, no matter where you are in the US or across the world, right? There's ways you can grow your own food, from gardens and things to small fruit trees, whatever you have locally. You can find your own local food. And then I guess the kind of negative side is how much people don't realize this is possible, is the third kind of discovery. Students don't often know where their food comes from. They don't understand what happens to their waste. People don't realize about electricity or how we're producing pollution and things, and that's something we've had to educate over and over again. Right, we have new students every year. That said, right, people really care about water and salmon and fish and where their food, how healthy their food is, and like what they can actually do in nature. People love hiking and things, so the experience matters for everything from exercise to mental health. So that's been a wonderful discovery to learn how much, if you build the space, if you kind of start working, as you said, right, with nature instead of against it, there's benefits that quickly come along that path.
Yeah, you mentioned mental health. I imagine having all these open spaces and time for, students to go explore and, pick fruit and connect with nature, see the butterflies and the bees. Like, do you think your campus is happier than the average campus?
I've worked on a couple, and I probably, right. People have the opportunity to just have the green space to walk. They can go out and find, and students stop me and tell me they saw certain animals and things, right? We have black-tipped weasels are super cute, and they're a popular one when people spot them on campus. So I think, yeah, a bit. But then just as long as students take advantage of that. We are in Seattle, so we get a lot of rain and gloom, and so there is the mental health challenge of that always. But with people in the spring and the fall being able to actually use the green space and kind of just be in a sort of natural space really does make people happy.
That's great. What advice do you have to people listening of, what's some easy steps people can take to, realize some of the things that you've realized on campus, maybe at their own house?
At the house level, right? I'm just going to repeat myself, right? The low pesticides is always the start, right? You can't grow food on your site if you're going to be eating your own pesticides. It's no good. Two, actually, growing your own food is surprisingly both mentally healthy and exciting, right? You can watch. If you have kids, right? Kids love watching carrots or cucumbers or tomatoes pop up and grow. And then connecting in different ways to the other nature and landscape around you, right? Even if people who live in apartments, if they have bird feeders or small, patio gardens and things, those actually make a difference for both the natural landscape and the urban environment, but also, helps you be happier having your own little plants in the area too. And not everyone loves plants, right? But everyone loves food. So
Yes. So whether you love plants, love food, love the planet, you want to feel better. Stephan, you're outlining, I think, a pretty solid argument that we all should be doing what you guys are doing at Cascadia. So
that's the hope, right? Trying to showcase, at very least, if nothing else, right, lower pesticides, but more, right? There's so many other things you can do to make yourself happier, your life a little bit more self-sufficient or community-oriented or better. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing the great work you're doing. And, I applaud you. And I'm inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to. And if anyone is interested in our programs and things, happy to have people contact me. We're in the Seattle area, so yeah, happy to talk to students or just even community groups.
Great. You're open for tours?
Oh, yeah. We give about at least one a month, sometimes more.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much.